All right. So, what I want to talk to you guys today about is Metabolism 101, why you're stuck and what an adaptive metabolism looks like and what a healthy metabolism looks like. So, most people think their metabolism is it's just fast or slow, right? That's what God either blessed them with or cursed them with, right? And that's really not how this works at all. Either you're one of those lucky people who can just eat whatever they want to eat and not gain any kind of body fat at all, and they stay lean, or I'm just not built like that, right? You typically hear that all the time. Oh, well, I have a slow metabolism, or I have a fast metabolism. I can't gain X, Y, Z. No, there's different levels to this, and for each scenario, there's different reasons as to why maybe you're experiencing certain problem. But at the end of the day, you either have a healthy functioning metabolism or an adaptive one. So, your metabolism isn't a fixed number; it's adaptive. It goes up and down. It responds to your habits, to your stress, to your food intake, to your training, and it can either work for you or it can work against you, which is what happens to a lot of folks. I like to explain this using two pyramids. So we have a healthy metabolism pyramid and an adaptive metabolism pyramid, or the unhealthy version. And as you guys can see, this is the normal pyramid where the base is fully supported by a strong foundation, and this one is flipped upside down to where there's really no foundation here at all. That's going to crumble, right? And that's kind of leading into this whole presentation. So let's break both of these down and figure out which one that either you're working toward or you currently are at, and we have to reverse engineer our way out of that. So the healthy metabolism period is like a well-built house. It has a strong foundation, and every layer above that supports it. So here's what this pyramid looks like at a 30,000 foot view, right? So number one, we have the foundation, which is sufficient food intake. That's the foundation. If you're eating too little for too long, everything else collapses. If this was brittle, everything else would just fall down and it would implode on top of itself, right? So this goes the same for if you build a house on chopsticks. It's not going to last long, right? It's going to crumble. Eating enough, especially enough protein and carbs, signals to your body, tells your body, we're safe, we're not starving, we're not on some deserted island kind of thing. You can build, recover, and burn fat efficiently because we have the resources at play to do so. When you eat enough food consistently, and notice I said enough food, not anything and everything that your heart just desires, right? So your body actually has the raw materials to fuel movement, to fuel your workouts for brain function, hormone function, digestion, and having good recovery, as in like good sleep. But when calories drop too low, this is when the body starts conserving energy. And that's when the adaptive pyramid kind of comes into play. Now, the second structure is movement and muscle. So, once food is in place, the strong foundation, right? The next step up is movement and muscle. This is not just workouts. I'm talking about daily movement, your NEAT, right? Like walking, things like that, and then resistance training. Um, as you guys should know, muscle is metabolically active tissue. The more muscle that you have, the more energy that your body just burns at rest. If you took me and figured out what my metabolism is, and then you strip 50 pounds of muscle off of me, our metabolisms are going to be two very different things. One, because one instance has 50 pounds more muscle tissue and the other one does not, right? Um, more muscle is a great thing. That's why that I can eat more food than the majority of people out there and just stay lean. And this has taken me years and years and years to get here. This is not something that I just decided to do 4 months ago. This takes a long time to establish. And then if we look at it from the strength training aspect, strength training tells your body to hold on to the muscle that it currently has. Even in a fat loss phase, this is why working out to me is so important it just gives the muscle a reason to stick around. Now, can you lose body fat, get in shape without working out? 100%. Yes, you can. But when you're in a dieting phase and you're in a deficit phase, you working out is telling your body, hey, we need these muscles. Let's not use these to burn as fuel, right? If you don't use them, you'll lose them. So that's why even in like somebody that's an older individual and they just want to shed a couple pounds, getting them to the gym is one of the most important things that you can do to keep them just metabolically active with the additional muscle that they're going to carry on their frame. And I'm not talking about adding 30 pounds to grandpa's frame, right? Just enough to keep him toned up and just to be able to do day-to-day activities. And then you also have low impact movement like walking, steps, general activity. And this mainly helps with regulating blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and that increase in caloric output spikes. It doesn't spike stress up as far as like if you go for a walk or if you go working out, these are two totally different things. Working out is going to, cause a stress response, right? Inflammation, things like that. Whereas as walking, more than likely does not. If you're just doing a casual walk around, your daily neat, right? Um, this signals to the body that we are, in that rest and digest state and not in that fight or flight mode, which can then alter, your metabolism. And then if we look at the top, we have a recovery, and I was going to put consistency, but couldn't make it fit. So recovery and consistency. So at the top of the pyramid is what most people just overlook. Honestly, they look at the food, they look at the workouts, the daily steps, but they just completely skip the recovery part. Um, recovery is going to include quality sleep, stress management, regular bowel movements, a balanced nervous system. We're not living in this fight or flight state response mode all the time. And then if we look at the consistency side of things, a consistency means that we're doing all of that most of the time, not when motivation is high. I just posted an Instagram post about 10 minutes ago, and it talked about your non-negotiables, right? I have some non-negotiables every day, and they're probably the exact same for you. I brush my teeth every day. I put on deodorant every day. I take a shower at least once a day. Those are my non-negotiables. I don't have to be motivated to do any of that stuff. If we can shift a lot of this to a non-negotiable, you'll see results. If you can shift getting your food intake in, getting your workouts in, getting your steps in, prioritizing recovery into a non-negotiable, something that you do not have to be motivated to do, you'll see results that you've never imagined. And that's kind of going off topic, but still, having this consistency at the top of the pyramid is paramount. If you don't have consistency, then really everything else under here just kind of doesn't matter. And now let's move on to the adaptive pyramid. So as you can see here, it's upside down, has a very poor foundation as compared to this one. So this is the exact same pyramid, obviously, but just flips upside down. So instead of a sufficient food intake, we have chronic under eating. Your intake is too low, either because you are trying to lose fat too quickly, or you've been under eating for months. And for some of you who do like yo-yo dieting all the time, maybe even years. So this could be from 1,000-calorie diets, skipping meals because, well, I'm not hungry. Why should I have to eat? This goes into that. If I give you a meal on your meal plan, eat it. I don't care if you're not hungry or not. If it's an appetite issue, let me know and we can change things up to where we're getting the meals in. But just skipping meals to just skip meals because I'm not hungry. Again, this is contributing to the adapted unhealthy side of the metabolism. People are clean eating with low protein intake, but not enough overall calories. If you were to just eat chicken and rice every day, clean eating, right? You probably wouldn't get enough calories in. It just is what it is. Those are pretty, high voluminous foods, from like a food like stomach standpoint. So again, eating clean is cool and all. It's what you should do the majority of the time, but you need to have some kind of caloric dense foods in there as well to keep you out of that 1,000 calorie range a day. Um, and then one big thing is inconsistency. I mean, if you're doing good Monday through Friday, but Saturday, Sunday derail you, and then come your check in, during the week, man, I don't see why I'm not seeing any results. Okay, Monday through Friday, I was good. Saturday, Sunday, I didn't give a shit. Excuse my language, but that's what a lot of people do. They don't think that those 2 days, the two out of 7 days, really matter. When in essence that's what's killing their entire progress. So again, inconsistency with the food is just the starting factor for this adapted unhealthy metabolism. So now we move to the middle, low movement, low NEAT, and loss of muscle. So now that you're under eating, your body starts to hold on to energy. It does not know when its next meal is going to be. Um, you're going to take fewer steps during the day, not intentionally, but probably non-intentionally, right? You lose muscle because you skip the gym from lack of energy, or you just don't have enough fuel in your body to properly fuel your workouts. You're in there just going through the motions. You don't recover well during workouts. You feel more fatigued than often. Your training performance drops. It sucks. This means that your metabolism burns even fewer calories daily, and worse, it starts to think that muscle is optional. So again, it goes back to if you use it, you won't lose it. But if you don't use it in a manner to make sure the body knows to keep this around, it's going to turn that into a fuel source, and you'll be burning right through your muscle tissue, and that's not what we want at all. And then at the I guess you call this the top, I guess, bottom essentially, is hormonal dysfunction and fatigue. Essentially, all of this funnels down into this. So this is where things get pretty ugly for most people. High cortisol, poor sleep, poor digestion. In women, we can see a loss of a menstrual cycle, low libido, for both male and female, thyroid issues. You may still be training and you still may be eating clean, but now you're working against your metabolism instead of with it. And this is where it gets to the point where it doesn't matter how hard that you diet, how hardcore that you are. Nothing is going to change. I hate to break it to you. If you're in this mode right here and you're trying to just white knuckle through it and think that, all right, I just got to get through this and I'll be done. Nope, the scale is it's going to stick. You're going to be constantly inflamed, constantly bloated. Your cravings are going to be all over the place. Your sleep is awful. Cortisol is all over the place. Hormones are all over the place. You're a metabolic and hormonal mess. And I don't care if you live in the gym and you eat the healthiest foods possible. Doesn't matter if you're in this state here. You're not making many changes whatsoever. Um, and this is why your diet stopped working, if that's what you want to call it. It's not that your plan was broken, it's that your metabolism adapted to the stress that you placed upon it, from the lack of food, the poor training, the lack of sleep, and the overall output was decreased, and your body just down regulated it. So again, it goes back to the if you don't use it, you'll lose it. If you have lower food intake, why does my body need to have such a higher metabolic rate? Let's just ramp it down some. The training is now lower. Let's just ramp it down some. The sleep is lower. We don't need that much. Let's just ramp it down some. So the more of these patterns that you put your body in, it's gonna recognize it, and it's going to adapt down. And the main reason is your body has a survival mechanism kind of encoded into our brains, and essentially it's this: your body will prioritize keeping you alive, over keeping you lean and muscular 1,000% of the time. If you're on a deserted island somewhere and food is scarce, water is scarce, whatever, your body doesn't give two craps about I don't want to lose this bicep or this back that I've worked so hard to keep, this muscle. Nope. Any resources that it can, either A, hold on to, or it can, down regulate, it's gonna do it. So overall, and even in just life in general, even kind of outside of this scenario, your body's purpose has two things. One, it's survival, and two, it's reproduction. Whether you decide to go the reproduction route or not, um, the end all be all is still your body has a survival mechanism that wants to keep you out of that, um, out of that state of, hey, I might adapt things down too low kind of thing, because it will then adapt things down to where you're very uncomfortable. You're tired all the time. I mean, just it's not a good place to be, is what I'm trying to get at. If you're stuck in this pyramid right now, then you probably see a lot of high effort to keep this thing going with no returns. You have constant frustration because the scale's not moving. You're not getting leaner. You're not getting stronger. Whatever the case may be, things just suck in an essence. If you're here, it's not a good place to be. If you're here, it is. Over here, it's not. And that's why most people quit. They either restrict harder, they quit, or they start chasing these random protocols, that shiny new object syndrome that everyone is now using, and it only just digs the hole deeper. And this is what it is. It's kind of the same thing as if you're here. A lot of adults are here. A lot of unhealthy adults are here. And I know some people personally that are here, and then they add on GLP-1s, semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, all that good stuff, right? And again, it's just digging this hole deeper. They don't realize that, and they'll see it on the other end. But again, some people just have to do things on their own initially, and they'll find out in the long run that that probably wasn't the best idea. They should have fixed this stuff first, flipped their pyramid, and started building this back up before hopping on something like that, to be completely honest. Now, the fun part, I get to write. I didn't write it all down this time. How do we rebuild the pyramid? If we're here, how do we get to here? So the fix is fairly simple. Number one, if you guys can read this, is raise the calories. Get your food up. This is the priming or the reverse dieting phase of everything. This is not a cheat meal. This is not a free for all. It's calculated and it's very structured. You bring calories up slowly over a period of time. If the deficit is very big, it's going to take longer. If it's not, then it kind of shortens that time frame. And then also, adherence plays a big role in this too. This is something that I don't see a lot of folks talking about. Yeah, you can follow a step by step reverse guide, but if your adherence is off and you're in a reverse phase, um, you're wasting time. It is what it is. If we're slowly adding 50 calories a week, 100 calories a week, but you just said, "Oh, let me go to the Mexican restaurant and eat a little something. I deserved it this week." All right, yeah, that 2,000 calorie meal that you just ate has thrown your small 100 calories a day step up way out of line. Now we have to wait for it to come back down, establish another baseline, and then we go up again. So again, if you're reversing, adherence has to be, in a perfect world, 10 out of 10, but at least an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 to keep things going in the right direction. And then also, while we're bringing calories up, prioritize your protein, obviously have carbs in there structured around training and before bed if possible. And then let your biofeedback improve. We need energy, sleep, hunger signaling, strength, all that stuff to improve as well too. Now we go to the second step. So once we get the calories added in, then what do we do next? Number two is start back with the training and steps. So this is very easy. Get 7 to 10,000 steps daily. Get some movement. This is going to aid in blood sugar regulation, digestive health. Just if you are walking outside, it just gets you outside in the sunlight. It gets sun in your eyes. If we're talking about the training aspect of things, get at least 3 to 4 days in a week if possible. Use progressive overload. Just don't go in there and go through the movements. Actually give it effort. Um, and then, if all possible, which it should be possible, just skip any kind of hit cardio, any kind of excessive cardio. Because if you think about it, now, unless we're in a spot to where we still need to keep cardiovascular health up, and the individual has a good bit of body fat to lose, doing hit cardio or any kind of like excessive cardio is kind of counterproductive. So, if we add 100 calories in daily, right, over a 7 day span, that's, 700 calories there. But if you're adding in additional cardio to speed things up, and let's say that you had 4 sessions a week at 250 calories burn, well, I just added in 700 calories to your plan, right? You just took 1,000 out. So in reality, we're net 250 for the week. And if you didn't tell me that you added in the cardio, I'm scratching my head saying, dang, I added in food and our stuff's dropping, right? Like, what's happening here? So again, doing extra like excessive cardio during that time frame is not what you should do at all. And then number three is going to be, you guys could probably guess it, recovery. Focus on recovery. 7 out of 9 hours of sleep, morning sunlight in your eyes as soon as you wake up, if possible. Less screen time at night. Put the phone away. Cut the TV off. 30 to 60 minutes, prior to you going to sleep. Read a book. Stretch. Spend time with your partner. Play with your dog. Play with your cat. Whatever. Do something besides staring at a screen right before that you get into bed. Stretch daily if possible. I'm not going to say that I do this every day, but 3 to 4 times a week, I'm stretching in some capacity, at least 15 minutes at a time to just stay opened up, stay loose, things like that. And then if sleep is poor, look at your caffeine intake, and reduce that if needed. This is where your metabolism becomes responsive again. You feel better before the scale will move, and that's a good thing. And let me repeat that. In a reverse phase, we're not looking for the scale to move. That's not our goal. Our goal is to rebuild the calories up, get you to feeling better, then we can look at the scale. So the final question, and the biggest question that a lot of people ask is, how long does it take to rebuild, go from here to here? Well, it depends. If you've been in a pretty hard deficit for 8 to 12 weeks, it could be 2 to 4-ish weeks that you need to, reverse out and add in calories. If you're somebody who's been, yo-yo dieting for years and years and years on end, you may need 3 to 6 months at maintenance, before you start to cut. A very simple example of this is if you're waiting for paint to dry and you get very impatient and you want to go ahead and paint right away, and you go ahead and put another coat on top of the coat that's not dry first to begin with, you are going to mess up what you just did, and you're going to have to start over. It's the exact same thing. You cannot rush it. You have to let the paint cure and your metabolism kind of steady out. Um, and then the final takeaway for all of this, is you don't fix an adaptive metabolism by just cutting out more and just continuing to push, right? You fix it by flipping this upside down and starting at the base first. Fix the food intake. Then you stack your movement as far as your steps and your NEAT, and then you focus on recovery. If you're stuck, you're tired, you're not seeing any kind of progress despite all of your efforts, take a look at what you're doing, because you may be here, and it's going to take you some time to get here, but it's doable. So, outside of that, that's all that I got for you guys today. You guys got any questions with any of that? I hope that made sense. I think it's a pretty good visual example of how to explain it. But has anybody got any questions or comments or concerns with any of that?
Would you say that there is a like I know that whenever you first opened up the call, you talked about like I guess faster or slower metabolism is kind of the terminology that is commonly used.
Mhm.
But would you say that there's some people with like more efficient or less efficient like metabolisms, regardless of like obviously if you're kind of doing the same things or whichever, if that makes sense? Like,
Yeah, I would say yeah, probably. I mean, there has to be some, some, middle ground here. You're not either here or you're here. There is, some, middle ground for sure. And like, I think what, that terminology that I was referring to earlier really boils down to, especially the one, oh, I have a fast metabolism. That's why that I can't gain weight. Um, a lot of the times, the people that are saying that, um, they're not eating near what they think they are. For instance, I had a guy reach out several years ago and was saying the same thing. I'm like, all right, cool. Um, I assure you, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day and you're not gaining weight, either you're a genetic anomaly or you need to go somewhere and be studied because this is not normal. And he ended up tracking his food for like 4 days and come back to me like, yeah, man, I was only eating like 2,900 calories. I'm like, yeah, see, there you go. You're like almost half of what you thought. But again, yeah, there has to be some middle ground. You're not either here or there. I think there's a lot of play in between there too. So
definitely been on like the side of under eating before. And like, I feel like before I started, like with you, I was definitely at a point that I was kind of on the other end of that, though, probably overeating, or
yeah,
I guess not eating the right things, I guess I'll say.
yeah,
Mm. But yeah,
yeah, for sure. I think that's what it all boils down to is the base. If you can't get sufficient food intake and have a consistent food intake, then everything else really on both pyramids really just collapses. So, and that's the hardest part for most folks. So, but